Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we are doing a library book haul. I'm very excited to share with you. I think I have 9 books with me and 2 of them are actually from some local free little libraries where I exchanged out the 2 books to take 2 books from the little library, so I'm very excited. It's my first time actually using one of those. And let's go and hop into our first book. So the first book I picked out is Wonton Terror by Vivien Chien. This is the 4th book in the Noodle Shop Mystery Series, which I just recently finished the first 3 books in it. My sister got me the first 3 books in the Noodle Shop Mystery Series for my birthday in March, and I just finished reading those and I wanted to move on to the next ones in the series. So my library fortunately has most of the rest of the series, including Wonton Terror, as you can see here. And I'm really excited. Essentially, the Noodle Shop Mystery Series, if you're not familiar with it, our main character, Lana, she runs her, manages her family's noodle shop, and it's located in a place called Asia Village, which is in Cleveland, Ohio. And Asia Village is a plaza with all these different Asian restaurants and shops and markets and different things like that. And she's quite the amateur sleuth. She solved a few different murders that have happened in the village. This particular one actually takes place, it's called Cleveland's Asian Night Market, and she's going to be helping out with Wonton on Wheels, which is run by old friends of Lana's parents. She's really excited for this night. There's going to be a lot of publicity for her family's restaurant, and there's just a lot of things in her personal life that she's also excited for that I don't want to get into in case you haven't read the first few books in the series, but I'm very excited for this. Naturally, it being a cozy mystery series, someone does end up getting murdered at this event, and Lana is going to be on the case. So I absolutely love this cover. I think this might be one of my favorites from the series so far. I like all the little details on it, so I'm very excited to read book 4 in this. That is our first checkout for the night. So the second book that I'm sharing with you guys, I actually got at my local, little free library booth. I traded out a book for it, and it's one of the Agatha Christie Hercule Poirot series. This actually is a 1975 edition of this book. It's quite old. Apparently it belonged to the Hawaii State Library, as you can see here. But this is the book Curtain, which it looks like is the 4th book in the Hercule Poirot series. Now, I have not actually started this Agatha Christie series. I'm actually on book 4 in the Miss Marple series. I've read some Hercule Poirot short stories, and I'm actually just about to read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie for a reading vlog, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you are interested in mysteries. I talk about them constantly on my channel. But this particular one, it sounds like Hercule Poirot is visiting Styles Court, the Essex Manor House, scene of Master Detective Hercule Poirot's first triumph. The world's changed a lot, and some kind of murder occurs at this place where Hercule Poirot previously solved a murder, apparently. I haven't read this series, but I couldn't resist picking this up, especially such an interesting, unique copy. This obviously is not modern day. The price listed on this is actually $3.95, so I wish books were still $3.95. That would be really nice. But I'm excited for this. I love the bright green, so I couldn't pass that up when I saw that the free little library, so I swapped out a book for that. So this next book is absolutely the opposite of my normal reading. I typically read a lot of mystery and thriller books on my channel, as well as a lot of historical fiction, but the historical fiction I read usually has mysteries as well. This is actually going to be my first true horror novel. So in the last few years, I read the book On Writing by Stephen King, and I loved it. His memoir on writing, it was the most beautiful writing style. As someone who is a writer, I absolutely loved reading it. It was just so gripping. The way he described things, even just the most mundane things, was beautiful. And I felt some sadness when I finished it at the time, because I realized I'm never going to read another book by him, because he writes horror books, and I just have never been really comfortable watching horror movies or reading them. But I've recently got into some darker thrillers thanks to Lucy Foley, and so I was like, maybe I could read a Stephen King, as long as it's not before bed, maybe I could read it. So one of the most recommended Stephen King novels that a lot of people said was a good one to start with is Pet Cemetary. So I picked that up from my library, and I have to say, I'm definitely intimidated. This is quite the long book. This is 560 pages, so it's a long book. And the cover alone is just, that is a horrifying cover. So I do not know how I'm gonna do with this. If I get far into it, I'm planning on maybe reading or doing a reading vlog with me reading my first horror novel, my first Stephen King I mean, okay, technically I read his memoir, but you know what I mean, like my first Stephen King for like what he's known for. So wish me luck. I'm usually more of a cozy or just a traditional mystery reader, not like a horror reader, but I just loved his writing style so much that I'm willing to give this a shot and see if I can make it through, if I enjoy it. We're gonna see. No promises. Let me know, do you guys like reading cozy mysteries, and do you read like horror and like more scary things too, or do you kind of strictly stay in one category or the other? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments below. So back into a very cozy note. This one is called A Potion to Die For by Heather Blake. This is part of the Magic Potion mystery series. I do have my library's name covered up there since it has my town in it, so sorry for the little sticky note. I will pop a full picture on screen so you can see it better. But this is part of the like witchcraft magic potion mystery series. I have never read anything by Heather Blake, but I keep seeing Spencer from Intentionally Bookish, whose channel I really love, talk about this and say it's one of her like must-buy cozy mystery authors. So I'm very intrigued by this. I have not read a lot of supernatural cozy mysteries. I've read maybe like 5 or so, and I didn't have, like I had a few that I liked. I loved the Enchanted Bay one the most, but most of them I didn't like as much. So I'm kind of, we're gonna see, but I love everything else that Spencer talks about on her channel, so I'm like, okay, if Spencer likes this book, I feel like this is a good way for me to try the genre, like the subgenre of cozies in the supernatural area. And I just love the cats on here, like the kind of ghostly cats. So this one, basically our main character's name is Carly, and she's the owner of Little Shop of Potions, a magic potion shop. I guess it specializes in love potions specifically. And of course, you know, something goes wrong and she finds a dead body, and the man is actually clutching one of her potion bottles, which kind of puts the police on her radar, and she's kind of forced to take on the role of amateur sleuth and clear her name essentially. So I'm excited for this. A little, you know, a little apprehensive just because I feel like supernatural cozies for me, it's very much hit or miss. Like there's not a lot of in between. So we're gonna see how I like this, but I am optimistic, and I love the cover. This is such a cute cover. Another cozy mystery that I'm very excited for. So this is part of a series that I absolutely love. I've read most of the books in it so far, and this is by Jenn McKinlay, one of my favorites, Death in the Stacks. This is part of the Library Lovers Mystery Series. Yeah, so this is actually book 8 in the series, so it's quite far into the series. I think there's about 14 of these books out so far, so I still have some more reading to do in the series, but I'm really excited. This looks like a very like autumn themed one. There's all these pumpkins and beautiful like leaves flying through it. And I have to say, the plot of this one really interests me. So our main character, Lindsay, is a library like activities director at Briar Creek Library, which is this beautiful like seaside, kind of reminds me of like Cape Cod. I'm not sure if it specifically states where the Library Lover series is, but it kind of reminds me of like a Cape Cod, East Coast, by the sea mystery series. And essentially Lindsay is working on this big fundraiser with the library, and she's working on it with a president of some committee named Olivia, who is just throwing a stink about everything, being a real pain, and she's putting up with her. She wants to, you know, raise as much money as possible. However, when she starts to threaten and really be rude to the new hire that Lindsay hired, Paula, she ends up throwing Olivia out of the event. But then later that evening, she finds Paula, the employee, standing over Olivia's body, and she has to work to clear Paula's name because she knows that Paula is a great lady. She would never, you know, hurt Fly, but she finds her in like a compromising position, and so Lindsay is on the case trying to clear her friend and employee's name. So this one sounds really interesting, and this cover is adorable, and I love the dog in this series. I believe its name is Heathcliff, which I think is a great reference. And you also have the Craft of Noon gals in this, which is how the book always starts, where it has a collection of Lindsay and her friends and different library patrons who are reading a book together, and they discuss it while they're doing crafts and things, which I think is a really fun touch that I love. It's just, it immediately immerses you into the world once you start reading the series, and I love that. So very, very excited for this. Next one, we have another cozy, and this one I actually got from my free little like library nook, and this is called Dead and Breakfast by Kate Kingsbury. Now I've heard a lot about Kate Kingsbury, but I don't think I've ever actually read anything by her. This is the first book in a Mary Ghost in Mystery series, and I'm very excited for this. Essentially, what I know about this is that it has a grandmother-granddaughter sleuthing duo, which I really like, and they've opened a bed and breakfast together after the granddaughter had kind of a messy divorce. The grandmother's like, hey, let's open a bed and breakfast in this purportedly haunted like hotel. So they open this bed and breakfast together, and mischief ensues, of course, it being a cozy mystery. And so they've purchased the bed and breakfast, or they're renovating it, and they actually stumble on a dead body in like one of the closets upstairs, which is of course big problem. They call the police, and it's believed that the body is the wife of the previous owner, and the two start to sleuth into this and try to figure out what happened, but nobody really wants to seem to talk about this lady. So I like that element. I think that's really curious, and I love the cute dog on the cover. I'm really excited. I was really surprised to find such a nice, like almost brand new hardcover cozy that's $25.99 in the free little local library thing. So I'm really excited for this. This is complete, like made my night kind of thing. So I'm very excited for this. Let me know if you've read this, because I have not read this author before. Okay, and the next one we have is more of a thriller. This is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, and this one is a best-selling novel. If you are on BookTube or BookTok, you've probably seen this book brought up before because it seems to just be everywhere. So I decided to, let's jump on the bandwagon, give it a try, because I've really enjoyed, like I mentioned earlier, Lucy Foley's like The Guest List, and I recently read The Paris Apartment, and both of those were like 3.5 to 4 stars for me. Very like strong page-turning thrillers. I really enjoyed them. So I thought this would maybe be in the same vein. In fact, Lucy Foley actually has a quick praise for it. She says it's a deliciously dark, elegant, utterly compulsive read with a twist that blew my mind. I loved this even more than I loved The Silent Patient, and that's saying something. So I was like, okay, that made me feel very optimistic about this. From what I understand about this, it has some like elements of Greek mythology, dark academia. It's like a very thrilling, twisty kind of a read. I don't know very much about it, but I don't want to, because I like going to thrillers with as little knowledge about it as possible. So I'm very excited for this. I will report back. If you've read this, let me know. I know it's a very popular book right now. Alright, so I actually have 2 more books. We have a nonfiction that I'm going to talk about, and then a mystery to finish us off. So this nonfiction is The Betrayal of Anne Frank, a cold case investigation. It's written by Rosemary Sullivan, and I'm very intrigued by this. This was actually listed on my library's like recently acquired page, and that's kind of how I stumbled on this. I'm curious about this because this is a nonfiction, and it's done where a retired FBI investigator actually visits the Anne Frank house, and he was really surprised to learn after his visit that nobody really knows who turned in Anne Frank and her family and the other family that were living in like the, I want to say like alcove or like attic above, where they were being hidden in like a Nazi invaded town, and they were able to stay there for 2 years successfully with no one knowing they were there, and they were able to hide there successfully until somebody turned them in. And no one has really delved into or like really like narrowed it down to who actually turned the family in and why. So I thought this would be an interesting book. I know it's definitely going to be a very sad read, and the FBI agent actually decided, the retired FBI investigator decided that he wanted to delve into this case, even though it was over 75 years old. He really wanted to learn who the betrayer was and the different, what happened and why they were turned in. And of course this is very difficult because by the time he started looking into this, most of the immediate witnesses were already dead, but this book kind of pulls it together, I guess, in some ways. So I'm really excited to see how this book is put together. I'm not really sure. Either way, I think it's going to have some really interesting history to learn about, and of course a very difficult and very humbling topic. But I'm excited to delve into this and read. I do enjoy nonfiction, especially in the kind of like time management, self-help, business section, but also in the history. I really love to read history, so this sounded like something that would be interesting to me and kind of a good book to accompany the Anne Frank, the Anne Frank diary. So I'm excited for this. If you've read this, let me know. I haven't heard anything about it. I just picked it up on a whim. Okay, and last but certainly not least, this one is a very, very new release that I'm very excited for. It's called Harlem Sunset by Nekesa Afia. This is part of the Harlem Renaissance Mystery Series. The first book in the series was called Dead Dead Girls, and I just finished reading that in like March or April, and it was fantastic. Like a 5-star read. This is an excellent historical fiction mystery. It is not cozy, I would say. There is definitely some occasional graphic elements. I wouldn't say it's extremely graphic in any way, but it's definitely not, it's out of the cozy realm for me anyways. But it features our main character Louise, who is an amateur sleuth, and I'm excited because in the first book she was a very reluctant sleuth. Like, she kind of got pushed into the situation where she was sleuthing. So I'm curious about how the author is going to put her back into a sleuthing role. And this cover, I'll put the two on screen, but I loved the first cover. But this cover for Harlem Sunset is absolutely just absolutely gorgeous. I love the colors with this so much. The general premise for this book is that Louise is at the Dove, which is like a dance club, with her girlfriend and her friend and his sister, when they actually bump into one of the victims that Louise had previously been like involved with from book 1. And they end up, spending the night, like partying, having fun, etc. However, in the morning when they woke up, Louise's girlfriend wakes up and she is covered in blood, and the woman that they had bumped into is found dead nearby. So of course this puts immediate suspicion on Louise's girlfriend, and there is a lot of drama around that, and she's immediately trying to clear her girlfriend's name. So that's kind of how they get over the reluctant sleuth part, and I'm really excited because I liked Louise as a person. She was very flawed, and she had many strengths to her, but she was a very deeply flawed character, and the author really didn't shy away from that in any component. She also didn't shy away from different really just horrible historical facts of the time, which I also appreciate. So the first book was a really great read, so I'm really looking forward to this one. Alright guys, that is my library stack. I am very excited. I'm going to be very busy, and I'm very excited to get reading this weekend. Thank you guys so much for watching my library book haul. I hope you guys will leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you've read any of these or any of the authors, and let me know what you've recently picked up for yourself, whether it's from the library or Kindle or whatever book haul. Let me know what you've recently picked up and what you're reading. I'd love to hear that from you guys. And as always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I do upload mystery and book content every single week. I don't want you to miss out, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.